Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Everything Happens for a Reason podcast. So, today I have a very special guest with me, Olivia, who's actually here to speak about water safety. And she has had some personal experiences which sort of led her down that route. And I think this episode is definitely going to be very insightful from that perspective because it's not something that gets spoken about a lot. We only hear, I suppose, the aftermath of it, which is not ideal in terms of that. So I know that you wanted to come on and speak about the safety sort of things people should be doing to prepare these things from happening. But we're going to start off on an insightful note. And would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name's Olivia, and I am a mummy first and foremost, and a granny, believe it or not, very proud granny.
I love it.
And I have I had two children. That's one of the worst questions, I think, when you lose a child, when people ask you how many children you've got. But I do have my daughter and my son, but now through my journey in water safety, I lost my son, and this is why I want to share awareness
Of course,
about
of
water
course.
safety.
And of course, I'm so sorry you ever had to go through that. But I suppose coming out the other end of it, like you said yourself, you're using your own experience, which, could have completely broke you. And you could have just turned to hatred for that. But you're using your experience to make sure that, other people don't have to go through the same things or you can prevent those types of things. And obviously, that's very much so valuable. So, if you don't mind, could you take us back, to the time? What was your son like? How old was he?
Okay. Ryan was 5, and just a typical 5-year-old, mischievous, just loving life, very kind, and like a great big brother. So he was, and would have been. His sister definitely ruled the roost. She was the boss, and she was younger, but Ryan would have done anything for her, and both of them were together. They were like, we used to go out together, and people used to say they were like twins. They were so close,
Hmm.
so they were. But he got through his P1 class in primary school. That's first class when they first start school, and we had planned our very first family holiday. So I had, and everybody was so excited about it, and it was life was brilliant. There was a lot of saving to be done, a lot of shopping to be
Can
done, nice
imagine.
new clothes and all, and kind of sitting them down and preparing them for the actual holiday itself, and
Yeah.
kind of explain to them that you always have to hold an adult's hand. But it kind of, what I experienced was an awful lot of parents don't explain to the children about the airport either. Kind of, I learned that through because an airport can be very busy,
Yeah.
and we did have a really bad experience in the airport because it was so busy. But mum held Rachel's hand and I had Ryan's hand, and we all had a routine. We had a plan that this kind of, we would go through the hold hands, and who would deal with the luggage and who would deal with certain things, and it was all planned so well. And it was difficult. It was when we first arrived at the hotel, did things start to go downhill very quick. That's
Okay.
when we lost Ryan.
Yeah, that is awful, especially like you said yourself, it was your first family holiday. Everybody was buzzing, everybody was excited, it's such a new experience. And obviously, your holiday essentially took a turn from that side of things. And I suppose from sort of everything that had happened, are you comfortable speaking about the experience or would you like to leave that
Yeah.
out? Yeah.
No, I don't mind, because I think you, people believe that it would never happen to them
Yeah.
until it lands on your own front door. And I think if people listen and understood, then they'd become aware, so I have no bother. we had just arrived at the hotel. There was a whole mix-up. The bus had went down a one-way street and couldn't go back round, well, wouldn't go back round. So we were all left out in down another street. So we all had to unpack the luggage off the bus. So my mummy took Ryan and Rachel, and myself and my sister took the luggage, and then my dad went on with my wee brother and my cousin. And just as I remember there was a few minutes between us, my sister and I lifting the luggage, and mummy getting to the hotel, because we had to walk down the street. And all I heard was, these people have just arrived, and the wee boy's been found face up in the pool.
Oh God, love you,
Um,
Olivia. That's giving me goosebumps.
it was really, really hard, and because at home Ryan was petrified of water. Like, even in the bath, I used to get a kitchen chair and take it to the bathroom and lay him on the kitchen chair just to wash his hair, and just so he could hold me and he could have that security that he was on something safe.
Yeah.
But it just went. What had happened was, when we first arrived, Ryan had actually give me his shoes. So and he had went on, he hated wearing shoes. He went on with Mummy. Mummy couldn't get the key of the apartment opened, and so she went to reception. So somewhere between the reception and the hotel room and reception, sorry, something happened. We don't know what happened. We don't know how he got into the pool. It was 7 o'clock on a Sunday. The pool was supposed to be closed, and I remember leaving the hotel to go and look for Ryan. So I do, and thinking, had somebody take him? And everybody else was in round the hotel, and I walked down that street in Lanzarote, a name I hate even hearing now, and just asking people, did they see him? Did they see him? And there was a lot of language barriers because
Yeah.
nobody seemed understood. I don't know how. I must have walked miles in a wee world of my own. And I remember hearing a voice. Don't know where the voice was coming from, but I heard, I've got him. And I don't know why, because it was so far away. But in that time, I remember saying, please have him for me. I remember walking back to the hotel and up the steps, and Ryan was lying at the side of the pool. There was a group of bikers had come in. There was the people in the hotel had gathered. They were doing CPR. The police were there. Nobody was letting me near Ryan. And I remember looking up and saying, let me go to him. I want him. And eventually they let me go. And I remember sitting alongside him. He was on the ground, and I sat down beside him and I looked at him. I remember looking into his eyes and saying, Mummy loves you. If you want, you can come back. But if you don't, I know, I understand. You come back if you want. But Mummy understands if you can't. And I knew. And I just didn't want him hurting anymore. And then the staff,
Take your time, Olivia. Take your time.
there was so many young reps at that hotel, and nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew. Everybody was just, it was through into chaos. I was taken in a police car. The first time ever in my life, they wouldn't let me go in the ambulance with them. Unbeknown to me, when they were doing CPR at the pool, somebody had asked my parents for insurance, for our travel insurance.
Okay.
This caused a lot of people, the guests at the hotel they were really, really annoyed about the whole situation. Again, I was in the police car with one of the younger reps who was absolutely adorable. And believe it or not, to this day, we're still in contact with each other.
I love that.
And there's actually a few of them that would still contact me. And we got to the hospital in the police car, and the ambulance had arrived, and myself and the young rep, we sat in this wee room, and it was just so empty and so cold, and not as in temperature, but just felt cold. And I waited and waited, and then this beautiful female paramedic with long curly red hair, stunning, came through the door and just shook her head at me, and I knew straight away that they had that he was gone. And that wee girl had to sit with me, grieving my wee boy, and they didn't. So then they brought him over to the chapel of rest. So they did, and I remember sitting in the chapel of rest, going into the chapel of the rest. Again, this wee girl was with me all the way with my mummy and daddy and my sister, and we all stood round wee Ryan, and he was sitting. It was the most beautifulest place, but he was on a really, really cold stone. It was a big, massive stone he was lying on. And it was peaceful and it was beautiful. And there was a cloth over his face, and I goes, "No, don't do that. He doesn't like that. Remove that now. That must never go back on." And then I seen there was a wee tissue on his chest. And I lifted the tissue. They hadn't even sealed him up again. They had cut him for some reason. Still don't know to this day why. And but I just wanted to get him home. We went back to. He had to be left there, and they eventually got us back to the hotel. They wanted us to go home straight away, but I didn't want to leave Ryan. I brought him on holiday. I should be bringing him home.
Yeah, of course.
And he was then took to we then went back to the hotel, and I remember sitting at the side of the pool, and some wee girl, she must have been about 8 or 9, she come over and sat beside me, and she held my hand, and she says, "Don't be worried, it's not your fault." And I looked and I goes, "What do you mean?" And she says, "We were down yesterday, and that pool was so dirty. There was golf balls and a pint glass, and we were down playing in it, and it was part of the kids club."
Okay.
And they were left, and she says the pool was so dirty nobody would have seen him. And then we went back to the chapel of rest the next day. And when I was away, the guests all, they didn't like what happened, and they were putting teddy bears on the side of the pool, but somebody came to lift them. So they did, and the families put chairs and stuff in the pool so nobody could get into the pool after that. They sent me home in a plane full of children and families and everybody all laughing and joking.
Yeah.
The ladies on the plane did look after our family so well. It wasn't their fault that all these people were here. That was just, it was such a rush to get us home. There was probably going to be no other way to get us home anyway. But to listen to children behind you and in front of you calling mommy and stuff like that, and you just leaving your wee one behind, it was very tough. And then we got back, and with the troubles here and people not getting on and about marches and things like that. And this is the most important thing, that I feel that peace is so important, because on the day we were supposed to lift my son from the airport, I couldn't even go and meet him at the airport because people were demonstrating against different parades and the right to parade and stuff. And I understand all that. But when I rung the police, and the police says that they could not give me my safety because these just weren't, there wasn't just the people protesting against the right to parade. There were people that were very high on drugs and drink, and they were getting into these groups of people that were protesting and causing ruckus. And the policeman said to me on the phone, I'll never forget it, because even where I was sitting at the time, he told me, because I was devastated. He says, we can't guarantee your safety. They maybe even they could take the hearse and burn it. Now, I'm not talking about the people protesting, I'm talking about the bad people that went in. I had to sit and wait for my son to come home, hoping he would reach home. And it's all the wee bits in between you. Like at that time, there was even an Orange Order parade had been parading at the very bottom of our road. They weren't aware there was a wake going on up the road a wee bit. And two of my work colleagues went down and explained, and they stopped. They stopped from where they trapped. They stopped, and it was done so peacefully, and nobody fought about anything, and they were respectful. But I still had to wait to get my wee Ran home after leaving him with that fear.
Yeah.
And then after, it was just, I just didn't want anybody to go through what I went through, as what my mummy went through, my sister went through. My wee daughter doesn't have her big brother anymore. And that's the bit where people have to learn. It can happen to you. It could happen to you. You need to teach your children about water safety. I go around the schools in my free time, and I give water safety talks. And if it saves one child, like I try and make it as fun but as serious as I can. I have a teddy bear and a big massive toy gorilla that I bring around with me. And one's called Rescue Ryan, and he's a lifeguard. And the other one, the big gorilla, is Rescue Rachel. And we go around schools together, and we do different wee scenes, like how to float. To learn someone how to float to live is one of the biggest things that you could do. Because what happens? We panic when we're in the water, and that affects our breathing. So if we learn that float to live, float like a starfish, that's what you need to do. And I just thought from a long time, I need to do something. I need to make people aware. I want Ryan to live on. I want what happened to him to have meant something. So a few years ago there, a little boy had drowned, and I remember waking up from night duty. So I did think, and seeing this on Facebook, and I thought, no. I did try to reach out to the family through their MP, but the MP was being very protective, which I understand. But then when the wee mummy got home, I reached out, and her story very, very similar to mine. How she lost her wee boy and the help, and that's what I wanted to change. And in that moment, seeing that on Facebook, I thought, no, not this all over again. And it was just after COVID, and people are going to be excited. I thought, not doing it. And I tried to reach out to a few people. I wanted to do a wee book in memory of Ryan to show children about water safety. And I reached out to one of the most amazing women, uh, Emma Hetherington. She's an author, best-selling author. She's amazing. And she says to me, I'll help you, Olivia. We'll do it together. And Emma did the hard work, and my family paid for the illustration. My husband and my sister, they paid for the fella that did the illustration, Jonathan Temple. He he was amazing. He didn't cost me. He only charged me half what it was, which was brilliant. Emma just gave her time and her effort for the goodness of her heart, and we turned a wee book around. I had my very first copy, a draft copy, on the 2nd of July on wee Ryan's anniversary, and it meant so much.
I love that.
Then I needed to get them printed, so I started then going round schools giving every child a wee book. Again, it's just through different wee fundraisers I've done. Last year would have been his 30th birthday, and I did a big water safety event where I had the RNLI, and I had the ambulance service, and I had community first responders all down doing life-saving events and this float to live and learning people how to do CPR. And my family helped me, my daughter and my wee grandchildren and my nieces, and my sister and mummy and my brother and all. They were all there, all supporting me. And it's just, children need to be taught about water safety, and if I can give that wee 20-minute, wee half an hour talk in their schools, I'll do it. And I love doing it. So and it's as if Ryan's with me all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, I want to say massive thank you for sharing your story right from the start, because that was never going to be easy to, I suppose every time you speak about it, it's obviously going back to that moment, and never mind obviously what happened, like you said, everything surrounding that, all the little things in between definitely didn't help, but I love how you sort of like, even the tone in your voice, everything changed towards the end, because it really shows that how passionate you are. And like every single one of these events, writing the book, everything else, like doing the fundraisers, doing the school talks, every single time you do that, like you said, it feels like Ryan is right next to you, because at the end of the day, it's him you're doing it for. You know, like that's what it comes down to, and it will come down to every single time. But I totally agree with you in terms of like the importance of that. And do you tend to just like, obviously you go to schools, speak to the kids, but do you do anything with parents, for example, and raising their awareness? Because a lot of the time when it comes to like the float or learning to swim, our first responders are going to be our parents, right, or teachers.
Yeah. Yeah. What I do is I have a Facebook page called Water Safety Mum,
Yeah.
a TikTok, and I try and post things up there. I'm more a Facebook girl, probably being my age, because I'm not kind of, I don't count myself as a content creator or
Yeah.
anything like that. So if I see things, something as simple as the color of your child's swimsuit is so important.
Yeah.
Um, a few now I've seen last year that an Olympian swimmer with a holiday company started actually to do a campaign, but I've been campaigning this for years. You should never ever put a blue swimsuit on your child. And
Okay.
these are things that I bring to the school, and the teachers are there, and the teachers are coming up to and saying, I didn't know that. and it's, you see, when you hear that, it even pushes you on even more. So anything I find, the RNLI has been amazing with me. They have given me training, and it's amazing how bringing that education to children and giving that wee book that I do, it's Ryan's Rules, and that's why I try my best. It's all fun, as I say, it's all fundraising. I don't want anybody to pay for it. I set up a wee water safety mum PayPal so that if people wanted to donate, they could donate. It means I can get more wee books printed.
Of course.
And it's every child gets a book, not every family, because they all can read it. The mums and dads is to get that conversation started at home when they bring that book home or the bookmarker. It's look what we got today, mum, and then mummy and daddy can read it at night, or a big sister can read it at night to the
Yeah.
to the weaker ones, and like it's brilliant when you see the reaction, but you have to bring that play side into it as well, and that's why I bring the the two teddies with me, the gorilla and the wee doggy, and it's the interaction is really really good, and we pretend I have two big trolleys, and we pretend one of them's a boat, and we pretend to rescue somebody and show them how to throw something out. If you see something in the water, if you see somebody in the water, never go into the water.
Yeah.
Always call for help, and kind of it's the float to live message that is so important to everybody in a swimming pool or at the beach, and your clothing is so important. If you think of a blue swimsuit in the water, a lifeguard's not going to be able to see you properly if you're not wearing bright colours.
Yeah.
You need
And
to wear
that
bright colours.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Because what I was thinking, I've never heard of that. Never heard, wouldn't even think of it until you sort of mention it yourself. But like you said, you want your child in bright colours, especially in the water, because that, like, why do lifeguards wear red? It's so that they're the first person we notice to stand out, you
Yeah,
know? So that totally,
so
totally makes sense. And yeah, I suppose, like you said, teachers are coming up to you and they don't even know that. And I feel like in schools, especially, obviously, our kids spend majority of their childhood in school, so their teachers outside of their parents are their second carer, you know. So
yeah.
this is definitely things that, you know, teachers should be taught to be able to bring that, because I know a lot of schools obviously run like even swimming clubs and stuff like that. That's important.
Oh, big. It's the smallest things. Like
Yeah.
I'll bring a wee basin, an ordinary basin of water in, and I will put 4 or 5 different things in it, and I will get the kids to pick out which is brightest, and then I'll say, "Would your swimsuit be that color? Would you be as bright in the water as that?" And the teachers are there, and the teachers can bring that education further into their classes. And then I kind of what I say as well is I have always asked the teachers permission first, that if they do a picture of what they have learnt, that they get a homework pass, and it's those wee bits where they think they're getting something for free, and it helps with kids or with children, because it's one of the most important things ever is to get those the number of drownings, because when shortly after Ryan, I researched the amount of drownings there was, and I could not believe it. I was the first mummy or the first parent or the first person to fight that hard to meet the holiday company that we travelled with, because it was all wrong. And I sat up with that board of directors and I told them what happened, and I explained to them that not one of them knew what happened. They hadn't heard of it. And I goes, that's because one arm doesn't know what the other arm's doing.
Yeah.
And I goes, that's wrong for your holiday company. I had to start there. I was in the Houses of Parliament with a very good friend of mine who is now not with us anymore. and she started me off, and I used any excuse to share that water safety, and I have done all through the years, but writing the wee book for ends rules and kind of with Emma, well, Emma did most of the writing. She has been amazing, and giving it out and seeing children and them looking and oh, I didn't know this and I didn't know that, and about riptides, and I share everything on Facebook I see and make people think, and if one person sees it, then it'll be worthwhile. If one person understands how to get out of a rip current, brilliant. If one mother changes the colour of her child's swimwear, that's even better.
Yeah,
So it is.
absolutely. And that's the thing, you won't change everything. There's still going to be these things that happen, but you're actively working. Like you said, you've seen the numbers and you knew that that should not be happening. So you're proactively showing up every single day for Ryan to get those numbers down. And like you said, if it's one life that can be saved, amazing. If it's more than that, even better, but
Yeah.
you're still showing up every single day to, live through Ryan and, keep promoting that and the importance of it because, and it shows how like selfless you are, Olivia, as well, because your what happened to you and how you felt and the grief that you had to feel afterwards. A lot of people would be angry at the world, and they'd just basically be like, fuck that, frig that, not
Yeah.
like they would victimize it. And of course, what you went through, you're very aware of it, but you also took it away as something to bring more purpose and make sure that another person, your neighbor, your friend, your family member doesn't have to experience that in the same way.
This is just, it's, if it stops one, that's it. And thank you for what you said, but I don't feel me as that. I just feel this was given to me for a reason. I lost my Ryan for a reason. And if it stops one family not having to come home with their child or a family member, I remember meeting a woman where I used to live, and I was with my daughter. It was one of the times I had courage to go out and keep walking, because sometimes people don't know what to say to you when you
Of
lose a
course.
child and they'll cross to the other side of the street. Please don't do that. Please come and talk to the mummy. Mention the child's name. They want to know that. They need to know that. They need to know. Don't be afraid. But this woman came and gave me the biggest of hugs, and she says, because of you, I got to travel home with my husband. Her husband had died on a foreign holiday. And because back then that was one of the things I brought up to the holiday company, that it's not fair. You go with your family, you want to return with them all, no matter what way they are
Yeah.
returning. So it is. So it's those little things that you don't think of that people have to be remembered. You have to remind people it could happen to you. Make a few wee tweaks in your life so hopefully it doesn't. Show your child how to float. Show them how a starfish. There's loads of things on YouTube. There's the RNLI site. They'll it's like float like a starfish. It's the simplest things can stop the most horrific things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will also leave in the show notes below the wee page to your obviously fundraising, like you said, and you have to keep doing what you're doing because when it comes to that, like so many people, we hear these things happening and we hear these tragedies happening, and that's all people say. Oh, God love them, what a tragedy, and they almost leave it at that because they think, well, it could never be me. That's not going to happen to us. But like you said, you don't know what's around the corner. You didn't go on that holiday expecting it, to be a completely life changing experience from that side of things. You were going on the holiday to have a great time. So I think that is very, very important to highlight because people will keep putting it off. Oh, sure, we'll sort that another day. We'll go to the pool next week. And then it's just like that repetitive cycle of it never actually happening. And, God forbid something does happen, touch wood, nothing ever does happen from that side of things, but you're in control of preventing it to a certain
Yes, that's right.
extent, you know?
Yeah, you can help yourself. It is the little things. Do the little tweaks. Get to the swimming pool. Show your child how to swim. Even the strongest swimmers can have issues in the water. Even the strongest swimmers can drown. Like they can have issues in the water. It's so important to learn the basics.
Of course.
Learn the basics.
And if it sort of came down to you, Olivia, like if anybody listening, like what would be the main tip, the main bit of advice, or like the one thing that you would want everybody to know be?
The one thing is
I know it's a hard
learn.
question.
No, it's learn your child how to swim. Learn yourself how to swim. Learn that floating technique, and hug your children every night and give them a big kiss before they go to bed
Yeah,
because you're so lucky to have them. Your children are wee miracles. Yeah, you can get cross and frustrated with them, but make sure you kiss them at night because they're so innocent.
of course. Absolutely. Well, thank you so, so much, Olivia, for coming on and sharing your story. Like I said, I had goosebumps the whole way through it, but it's very nice to hear that, you know, you're willing to share your story and you're willing to be open about it and, you know, every detail of it from that side of things, because sometimes you need that for other people to actually take things serious, which is sad, you know, it is. But
Yeah, it's true.
I do hope to anybody listening, you know, they're taking a lot away from it, and like you said, taking on every bit of advice from changing the swimsuits to making sure that they're not missing pool days. You know, it is down to the simple things, isn't it?
Yeah, most definitely. And kind of that's all it takes. That one simple wee tweak could save something. You might never know that
Yeah.
is it has saved it, but if your child gets into difficulty, if they know how to float, that's going to save their life. And like anybody can contact me. I'll point them in the right direction. I'm here for anybody that need help.
Of course, amazing. Well, like I said, I will leave your Facebook page, I will leave the fundraising page and everything in the show notes. And of course, it'll be all over my Instagram, my TikTok, everything as well. So we're getting the awareness out there. But thank you so, so much for coming on. I will wrap this podcast up here. But do you have any final words to say at all?
No, just thank you so much, and thank you to everybody that's listening, and everybody take care and stay safe.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening, and I will see you all next Wednesday. Bye.